I'm so excited to introduce a person really who made this space possible, who led an incredible transformation of this ski area, who has invested in energy efficient snowmaking, who is dedicated to inclusion on the slopes by having Vermont Adaptive make its home base here. Someone who I've had the pleasure of enjoying the ski slopes on a powder morning. Please welcome a great supporter and longtime friend of VT Digger, the former president and COO of Sugarbush, Win Smith. Thank you, Win.
So Anne Galloway, I got a call from my fellow investor and partner Adam Gresham one day, who was serving in the Vermont House representing the Valley. And he said, I'd like you to meet this reporter named Anne Galloway because she's beginning to look into EB5. Now, we used EB5 here at Sugarbush, and we raised $20 million. Now, those were the days when we were really trying to get Sugarbush on the map. We didn't have a big marketing budget, so we're doing a lot with public relations. So I thought if a reporter came and called, I could sell Anne on a story about Sugarbush. And in walks Anne, as somebody said earlier, kind of disheveled, a little bit late, carrying a bag, a notepad. But she had this disarming smile. And so I said, this is going to be easy prey, right? Then she and then she sat down and she opened up her notebook and she started to ask me about EB5. Now, I was really hoping to have a story written about Sugarbush, but I am so happy that Anne Galloway never wrote about EB5 at Sugarbush. Thank you, Anne. But in all seriousness, when Anne sat down, because we had used the program, and I'm proud we did it the right way, because it's a good program. It was a good program. It got tainted. It's a damn shame it did, but it was a good program, and Senator Leahy was so smart to get behind it. And it was used by us, by Country Homes, by Von Trapp, by a couple of others, and then unfortunately Jay Peak and Stinger ruined it, and Kuros. But Anne, when she sat down, you got beyond that charming smile. You realized that this was a person who had already done her homework. She was knowledgeable. And the questions she asked were precise, they were intent. And I don't know how many times we chatted over the years, but I learned a lot from Anne. Hopefully on background, we helped tell you a little bit about the program. But I remember those times in Vermont. Bill Stinger was a hero. He was Man of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce and other organizations. He was building jobs in Northeast Kingdom. It didn't make any sense to business people if you looked at it. We never suspected what Anne suspected, that it was a fraud. We knew those investors could never get paid based on the scale of what they were doing. But it was hard to talk to people about it because that was somebody who had a great reputation, well-respected, powerful, but that didn't thwart Anne. She stuck at it, and I remember the conversations as it built, as she gathered her thoughts. And one thing, maybe stuck out more than anything, when you said to me one day, he lied to me. And I don't think you ever lied to Anne Gallagher. But she stayed on this. She was thorough. She broke the case. Probably would have been broken at some point in time. But I think thanks to Anne, the truth came out a lot sooner. And I don't think it's totally told. And my guess is that Anne is going to stay on a story till the story is totally told. So Anne, I have the utmost respect for what you've done. As Brian said, for what you've created, the importance of independent investigative journalism, the importance of having Vermont actually be a leader and to see other people following around. So what I'd like to do now is have a toast to a very special Pitbull reporter, Anne Galloway. And I think there are a few other people who are going to also toast Anne at this point in time.
In 2003, I moved to Vermont to lead a sometimes kooky newsroom in the capital. There, I was proud to work with Anne Galloway when she was the Sunday editor of the Rutland Herald and Times-Argus. She was a smart and tough editor who always showed her dedication to community news. Little did I know then that Anne would go on to create a news organization at the vanguard of the nonprofit news movement. I had left the Times-Argus by the time Anne was laid off, but I often wondered what would have happened if the management of the newspaper had ever asked her what she would do to improve news coverage in Vermont. Would VT Digger even exist? Would the TA now be the largest news operation in Vermont? Make no mistake, Anne's work creating VT Digger was visionary, and part of a handful of similar organizations across the country that have changed and given hope to the future of news. From its humble beginnings as a State House bureau to now the largest news gathering operation in the state, VT Digger has doggedly pursued stories that other organizations would not touch out of fear and lack of resources. Many people, including journalists, doubted her work on the Jade Peak EB5 scandal and denigrated her efforts. She, of course, was right.
Anne Galloway is a giant, and I'm honored to be asked to say a few words about the contribution she's made to building a new, sustainable nonprofit model for local and regional news. I first met Anne in 2015 during a reporting trip to learn about how the media ecosystem in Vermont had changed. At the time, VT Digger was in an old house in Montpelier, right down the street from the State House. I remember that Anne's dog was lolling around the newsroom, but according to my notes, I didn't get its name. That's a rookie reporting mistake that I know Anne would never make.
I was an admirer of Anne Galloway's bravery and chutzpah long before I joined the staff at Digger. She launched Digger as an online-only news organization back when that seemed kind of a risky gamble. But now that we can all get news on our phones, that view seems visionary. And the journalism. Anne's work toughened up an overly friendly relationship between journalists and the officialdom they cover. When Anne began investigating what became the EB5 scandal, she was ridiculed for messing up a good thing for Vermont. She endured that criticism for years. And in the end, her work blew away the smoke and mirrors masking the biggest financial crime in state history. Under her leadership, VT Digger also took hard looks at police practices, the courts, healthcare, environmental outrages, conflicts of interest, abuse of children at homes that were supposed to care for them, and much, much more. Once those scandals were hauled into the light of day, they became impossible to ignore. Vermonters now look to VT Digger to right wrongs. They feed information into our tip line that often leads to important stories. And Anne has become a national leader in preaching the gospel of nonprofit news. She has shared her experiences with organizations large and small, all in the drive to provide the kind of news coverage that America needs and deserves. Anne has a lot more good works in her future, for sure, but she and we can certainly be proud of all the great things that she has accomplished so far. Anne Galloway is a journalism hero.
What I would like to say is that I'm so happy you started VT Digger, because it's going to stand for a monument for a lifetime of great work in journalism. And as someone who is related to Vermont by marriage, I've been a fan of Digger since it started. Digger has just done an amazing job covering the state and filling holes left by the disappearing mainstream newspaper. And I just want to point out that you are fiery, tough in a very good way, and you've set high standards for so many reporters that you have nurtured there. You've also been so generous with your time, speaking with students here at Northeastern who really appreciated it. You've also done a wonderful job hiring co-ops and interns. You hired Felipe Rodriguez, one of our wonderful students down here, who did great work for you and really gave Felipe his first big chance, which he so much appreciated. He's now working in New Zealand. Digger's also been an incubator for a lot of other young reporters, like Laura Kranz, a friend of mine who was later hired by the Boston Globe. Anyways, Anne, Digger is awesome, and we know it'll do great work for years to come. Thanks for getting the ball rolling.
This is Jane Mayer, and I just wanted to pay tribute to you because I am so proud to be one of the directors of the Vermont Journalism Trust, and it was you who gave me this opportunity. And I have to say, though, The greatest tribute to you is not from us, but it's from VT Digger. Just watching how the publication has grown and become the single most urgently needed and most respected news organization in the state is just a triumph. It's incredible what you started just with your own pluck. And you have created not just a publication, but also really a standard that we all try to live up to for fairness, for fierceness, for honesty, and for independence, and for the kind of journalism that keeps democracy alive all over the world, but most importantly, right here in Vermont. So thank you and congratulations.
Ann's accomplishment is also remarkable because in so many states, news deserts and ghost news coverage pepper the landscape due to newspaper closings and newsrooms crippled by layoffs. In contrast, Ann's Vermont Digger nonprofit model has developed a national reputation for how to sustain authentic, fact-based journalism with grants, donations, underwriters, and member subscribers. Ann's work has distinguished her as a journalist who provokes public reflection on issues important to Vermont and for connecting residents in all corners of the state to news that they need and value. Congratulations, Ann Galloway, on this well-deserved special night of tribute.
I had the pleasure of meeting Ann when she was starting up VT Digger back in the aughts. She was doing her due diligence, of course. She was going to visit every place that was starting up these kind of nonprofit public interest sites. She came to New Haven to visit us at The Independent. I could tell she didn't need any advice. She was so on it, so determined, so smart. And I just knew she couldn't fail. And boy, did she succeed. VT Digger, she became the model for all of us about how you reach such a wide range of readers and cover so much ground with such high standards. A few years later, I bumped into Ann at a conference, and she said, thanks for being with me back then. I figured out all the stuff. She started rattling off all these ways to get new subscribers, sign up for the newsletter, get new revenue streams. I said, it's a bit overwhelming because I knew I could never do it as well as her, but that's okay. Congratulations, Ann, and all the years in building up the Digger, on making the New England Hall of Fame, and you will be the first inductee at the next Hall of Fame, which will be the people who created the quality online journalism of the future.
Hey, this is Emily Sweeney here, and I just want to say congratulations and thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the great work you've done over the years at the Digger and for contributing so much to local journalism at a time when covering news, especially local news, is more important than ever. So again, congrats and thank you.
As I've watched the newspaper industry struggle and decline, I've felt more and more like a blacksmith at the dawn of the automotive age. And like many, I've been worried that as journalism erodes, so will democracy itself. But seeing what Ann Galloway has accomplished in Vermont has given me an unaccustomed feeling, hope. Her energy and her vision, her persistence and her reporting skills, her ability to marshal all the tools of the internet and social media has helped her bring about a news organization, VT Digger, that fights for all the right things and the best tradition of American journalism. So, Ann, congratulations. You've accomplished something that will last way beyond your individual efforts, and you've shown how journalism can bite the ankles of the powerful and still be the voice of the little guy. Along the way, you've made your corner of Vermont a better place, and it doesn't get better than that, my friend.
Ann Galloway has done something inspiring. She's made a mark on Vermont, and Vermont journalism has made a mark on the entire country. Having experienced firsthand the changes happening in print journalism in the loss of coverage of state government, Ann launched an online news organization with a focus on the Vermont State House with just one reporter, herself. Years later, Vermont Digger has a 25-person newsroom among the best journalists, I think, in the country. And Vermont covers news from all corners of the state. It helps knit us together. Good journalism is absolutely central to our democracy. Voters need trustworthy, reliable information on which to make decisions. and leaders need to be held accountable. Government works best when it's transparent. Anne has dedicated her professional life to ensuring that transparency. Her work has been an act of service to our state. Thank you, Anne, for your determination, your commitment to finding and telling the truth in the creation of Vermont Digger, which will continue your work of holding people like me to account. I know whatever you do next, you will do it with the same integrity you've demonstrated at Vermont Digger.
I want to say thank you to Bob the Green Guy Farnham. I think he's here. Thank you, Bob.